Mhm. Live, here we are. And here's the great news. Well, I think it's the great news. It only takes such a little bit of cash to get started in the investment game.
Really?
Yeah.
A little bit?
A little
Come
bit.
on, Yetta. It's not a little bit. It's a lot of money.
Are you going to argue with me right now?
Yes.
Oh, see, it begins quickly. The argument begins at the beginning. You ever notice that when you want to go do something that you maybe haven't done before, like the first time we invested?
Yeah, invested in what?
In a house.
Yeah, was it our own principal residence?
No, I'm talking after that one.
The first rental.
Yeah, the first rental.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good point. There's a lot of argument out there about whether your first house is actually an investment or a liability.
I say it's an investment.
And there are many that would disagree with you and call it a liability.
Yeah, like Robert Kiyosaki would disagree with me.
Mm-hmm. Because you need somewhere to live. The point is
But who's he? He's only written like a gazillion books.
Right. It's an opinion. It's a perspective.
Yeah.
So what it does do, though, regardless of whether you sit on the camp that it's a liability or whether you sit on the camp that it's an investment, which is an asset.
Asset. Yes.
Yes. Regardless, here's the great news. It sets you up to start investing in something that has long-term gain.
And why does it do that?
He's going to trip me up now. Can you feel it coming?
No, I'm proving my point.
Can you feel it coming? Well, I know, because you're investing.
It grows in value. Your mortgage payment makes the mortgage go down, and the value goes up over time historically. And so that's the definition of an asset, is something that goes up in value over time. Things that depreciate are not good, like a car. Like some people may say, well, my car is an asset. Well, maybe it is if it's a 1963 split back Corvette, split back window Corvette, and it was worth $100,000 5 years ago, it's worth $130,000 today. That's an asset because it's increasing in value.
Mm-hmm. And then with real estate, a piece, and this is not what we were supposed to cover today, but I can't help but say it because we're into this banter back and forth thing. His perspective, my perspective, their perspective. And that is because a house, if you don't maintain it, it actually depreciates. You have to maintain it. The land will still go up in value, but if I take a nice 2021 built house and I don't do anything with it, in 15 years, it will be worth less. Now, the land value may still have gone up, so it may still sell for more than it would have today. However, that's due to inflation and increase, but the actual building has depreciated and become worth less.
And basically what we really want to talk about today is, we were talking with a client of ours, and 5 years ago, they did not want to own, one of them didn't want to own real estate. The other one really wanted to own real estate. And because she had a bad experience in real estate and he hadn't. And so he wanted to own real estate. She didn't.
He'd never owned real estate.
They were arguing a little bit.
A little bit.
They were in debt.
Yeah.
About $40,000 negative net worth when they did their net worth statement 5 years ago. And we're just talking with them recently. And what's their net worth now? 5 years. Only 5 years of mentoring with the Decker team and buying investment properties, sacrificing a little bit here and there, maybe not living exactly where they wanted to, or moving into something to update it and then take equity and go to another property. It's been a little bit of work, but come on, folks. Guess how much their net worth is now?
Did you say come on, folks?
Come on, folks. Yes, type in the chat. Come on. Guess what their net worth is now. 5 years later, they both work full time. They put some money away for that, but they don't have huge jobs, like not huge jobs. As a matter of fact, he was part-time for quite a long time.
Until just recently.
And so, come on, type. I love that. Virginia says, come on, folks, type in, Virginia, what you think their net worth is.
If we
Come on,
told
just
you,
take
you
a
can't
wild
type
guess.
it.
Just take a wild guess.
And they haven't
5 years.
changed.
Only 5 years yet. Huh?
Okay, never mind. I'm not even going to give you more information other than to say I was even blown away because I've been there on the journey and knew the story and watched the steps.
It hasn't, you said doubled. That would put them at minus $80,000 if it doubled. Because they started at minus 40. And guess what?
No,
5
are you
years,
ready?
it has an 8 in it. And it's not $80,000. It's
$800,000.
$100,000 in equity in 5 years from negative. Now, part of it is they got us as mentors. Part of it is they read that book right over there. Can you grab that book?
I can't.
That's
This is
actually a
actually
copy.
hers.
That's a copy of her book. Do you see what's on there? Little tabs. Oh, they're on this side. Little tabs. Because everything that was important to her in the book, she's tabbed. This is the book that I wrote, actually, with your assistance.
Mm-hmm. He means Yetta's assistants.
Well, who did you mean?
Well, it could be anybody because there's lots of people here. So
There are?
Yeah, there are some. And if you're watching the replay, do hashtag replay. And if you're thinking this is good information, like this is a conversation that needs to be expanded. We're just touching on it today, touching on it. Starting with this though is an amazing spot. Yeah, see, Virginia's here. And another step would be first, we're going to start with it, is eliminate debt. It should be, of course, you're right.
Yes,
and it will
Suzanne.
be.
And some of my friends are going to help me do that, I think.
So eliminate debt is number one. And it was the first step they did, is they first had to eliminate the debt because that's one of the highest rates of return you can get is eliminate the debt. And then it takes very little. Once you, hey, that's awesome. Once you actually have a house that you're living in. So we talked about the house you're living in, set your mind up for investment. Truth. The other thing it does is it increases in value as you're paying down your mortgage and as the market is increasing. And if you do some double up payments or biweekly payments, those are extra little tiny things you can do that are seemingly insignificant and game changers. Within a few years, usually between 3 and 5, sometimes sooner,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes sooner, in this market sooner, but within 3 to 5 years, if you even put a nominal down payment, you're sitting there now looking at equity that is maybe 40% of the value of the home, maybe 50% of the value of the home. And then what you can do, which is where you get this little bit of money, you don't even have to have a second job. You could have. You don't even have to sock away. You could from your regular paycheck. Not a bad choice. Keeping a 10% wealth building investment account, it is a little tip, is a brilliant strategy because once you do that consistently, you'll live below your means rather than above your means. So
Yes.
right? Beginning with tithing and then beginning with an investment account and then keeping some fun money, like breaking out your money so that some of it's working for you and some of it's playing for you and some of it's just giving you satisfaction of being able to give.
So
Back to the house.
This is available to everybody,
Yeah.
right? But not everybody does it. Not everybody invests in real estate. And we're going to chat a little bit. In a little bit, we're going to chat at what keeps people from crossing the river into investing. And I write the story in the book about crossing the river.
Right. So
Now-
we're sitting, wait. I didn't say the part about we banter because we have to, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to talk to you at all. So once you have that, say 40% value built up in your home, you could pull out 20%. And that 20% should be enough.
You could. Or, this is what I was going to talk about. You could do something like the sneaky thing.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
not
even-
really sneaky, but it's a sneaky thing.
It's a great thing.
And that is what we're helping a client do right now. We're not sure. They're thinking of putting an offer in.
Today,
It's a triplex. And the beauty is
you said a sneaky thing. Now it's going to sound like you're doing the deceptive
no,
thing.
it's wise. It's a wise, it's shrewd, it's available. It's not sneaky like it's sneaky like people don't really know it's available. That kind of sneaky. Now, insightful, it's awesome. So a triplex, some people say, well, I can't buy an investment property because it takes 20% down. But if you buy a duplex or a triplex, you can buy it with 5% down as long as you live in one of the units. And you can live in the unit almost rent-free. Sometimes there's a slight, you have to pay some, but it's going to be cheaper than living on your own typically.
And less expensive than renting if you're renting somewhere, and way less expensive than even paying off your own
Crazy.
mortgage. And you could choose to sacrifice for a little while and live in the least expensive unit. Live in the one that's maybe.
Roz says she's doing that right now.
She
She's
is.
living in a multi-unit in one of the units, and the tenant's helping pay down her mortgage and
Even
make her
her part of the
expenses,
mortgage,
yeah, and make
not
her
even just
expenses
their
lower.
part. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like brilliant. And if you go with something that's maybe a triplex, it helps even greater because you're spread. Well, depending on the units,
And the
depending on how
cost
big
and
and the
rents.
cost.
Yeah, and that's all the stuff
and-
we analyze. We put it into an analyzer for you, give you an idea of what it's going to be worth in 5 years, what your equity growth is going to be, and sometimes it's find a property that needs renovations, or you're going to move into it and then rent it out later because it had too low a rent. And then suddenly what happens is the rent goes up, the property's in better condition, you have it reappraised a year later or whatever, you refinance it because now you can take out $60,000, $80,000, $100,000. You take that out as a down payment on another one, and you keep building. And the faster you can do that, the quicker you build. And these people are amazing. They're students of investing. They're willing to do the little bit of short-term sacrifice to build long-term gains.
Right.
It's not a get rich quick. It's a get rich slowly. Although 5 years is pretty quick to almost hit $1 million, but it's probably in about another year they'll break $1 million in net worth in like 6 years. Some people work their whole life to make $1 million. Never mind save it.
It's incredible. And so we promised, and we have like 2 minutes, we promised to give you some of the reasons people don't do it. But rather than us giving them to you, why don't you tell us the reasons you've
type
heard.
in the chat, or the reasons you're not doing it.
Better yet, except some of the people here are doing it because they've already realized the huge benefit. So what are those reasons? I'll start. Can I start?
You could start with a reason, sure.
Well, I've heard that tenants destroy houses.
Some of them do. But what percentage destroy houses? That's the question. And how do you pre-select so you don't put that tenant that destroys houses and doesn't pay the rent usually at the same time?
Right, it's usually
into
together.
your property. How do you filter so that doesn't happen? That's a great question, and we'll answer that sometime in person.
And on Life's Inside Track. So we have an episode coming up. We're doing the last week of every month. We do an investment related topic on YouTube for the Decker team in relation to growing wealth through real estate. So this is just the beginning conversation. So what are the other, it's in the middle of the beginning. Yeah, it's somewhere in there. What are the other reasons people don't invest? Tell us.
Somebody typing? We can't see.
You can't see.
You can't see anybody typing.
What are they?
What is your reluctance to investing in real estate? Another one for me was originally was ignorance. My parents never did it. They bought their own home, they bought a business, but they never invested in a rental, a multi-unit, or anything like that. So I consider that ignorance. I was ignorant of the information required to do something like that. It was the unknown.
And it sounds, the other thing I hear is it's scary. Like,
Well,
it's just
what
scary.
makes it scary?
Well, because I don't have control. Like, not just the tenants wrecking it, but what if the mortgage rates go up? What if the value of the property goes down?
I love Suzanne. Not enough real knowledge.
Versus the fictitious stuff. Because have you ever noticed that most of the stories that are out there are the ones that tell you why it's a bad idea? Because the people that are making a lot of money through wise real estate investing usually aren't talking too much about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of thinking, well, I don't want anybody else to feel bad, and really it's nobody's business what I'm doing with money. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yep. You're going to hear the negative stories because they're sensationalized. That's why the media is full of negative stories. Because who wants to tell you the story about they own 5 investment properties, they're worth over $1 million because the tenants have been paying it down and they're awesome and they pay every month? And yeah, why would a person share that story? Because it feels like you're bragging or whatever. But if a tenant wrecks your property and doesn't pay for 6 months,
that's a story.
That's a story people talk about and spread, and then you can't sell it, and it's so on and so forth. But like I said, not putting the wrong tenant in your property is 99.9% of the issue. People say they don't want to be a landlord. Suzanne said fear, 100%. Fear stops people from doing things. And we were talking today with the client that we're coaching that fear and excitement is the identical chemical process in your body. The same hormones are released, the same everything, just it's what your brain tells it, whether it's excitement or fear.
Yeah.
I got yellow speechless.
And the concept of don't want to be a landlord. There are property managers, there are reasons that we can work through all of that. And at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. If you can't get harmony after you have correct education, after you have the real goods, not just the real knowledge, not just the sensationalized stories.
Talk to people that are doing it.
And that, well, they're harder to find. So if you're doing it and you're making good income from it, are you willing to be an asset and an insight for someone else, a resource for someone else? It's such a beautiful thing to be able to share a little thing that you did, that you learned, because when we say it, frankly, it's not received with the same.
Why? Because it's our business?
Yeah.
Well, how do you think we made all our money? We made some of it in our job, which is helping people buy and sell real estate. But the majority of our wealth has been accumulated through investment properties.
Right.
Because we've lost lots of money in other ways.
We sure have.
We sure have. But investment properties have saved our bacon, so to speak. Sorry, our vegan people. But, well, they'd be okay to save the bacon because then that means the pig doesn't die, right?
I get it. Anyway, so if you're looking for more insight, if you have more questions, if you have insight you can offer another, just share it here. And once you get the education, the real knowledge, as Suzanne said, then if you don't have peace, you can't get to peace, you can't get to harmony, don't do it and leave the money to the investors that are willing to do it. Right?
Yes, or call me and rent one of my places.
I can't believe you just said that. Or one of our landlords. We will help one of our investors
And-
get you a rental that
And
would
that
work
being
for
said,
you.
there are times to rent. There
Yes,
are
there
times to rent when you're in transition, when you're first starting out, when you're trying to build wealth. There are times where you need to rent, and I have nothing against.
You rented once.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I did was, as I was renting, I was accumulating what I paid to the landlord in my head. I kept adding it up. Oh, we're at $20,000. Oh, we're at $30,000. Oh, we're at $50,000 that we paid in rent, and we didn't own anything. Now this was
1982.
so a few years ago. $50,000 is a lot of money. So take what you're paying in rent now, multiply it out, and just see if that's where you want to be. And sometimes at the end of someone's cycle in living, they may want to rent. They may not want the hassles. They may want to rent low price so they can lock it, leave, and go to somewhere warm for 6 months or whatever, like, and have no worries. So there are times to rent.
There are. So if you have enjoyed this and you're thinking, you know what, I want a little bit more, I might even want you to Yahoos to be an advocate for me on the journey of investing. Reach out to us. We have loved being many of our fabulous clients advocates on the journey of growing wealth and wisdom through real estate investing.
Mm.